We will read today in the Gospel from Matthew chapter 21, verses 23 to 27. These verses appear immediately after Jesus has cleansed the temple. Those who watch that scene begin to question Jesus about his authority. They ask him, by what authority are you doing these things, and who gave you that authority? In his response, Jesus asks them a counter question. And the counter question is about the baptism of John, through which he is referring to his own baptism, because in the Gospel of Matthew, John the Baptist is the one who baptizes Jesus after Jesus gives him permission. And so, the opponents of Jesus hear the question of his baptism, and they are discussing among themselves when they are asked, where did the baptism of John come from? Did it come from heaven? Or did it come from earth? Did it come from God? Or did it come from humans? And they begin to dispute among themselves, saying, if we say it came from heaven, then he is going to say, why did you not believe in John if it came from God? If we say from human beings, if we say from earth, we are scared of the people, because the people hold John in very high esteem. So because they did not want to get caught in their answer, they say, we do not know. Jesus then says to them, if you do not know, then I will not tell you also where I get my baptism from. However, even though Jesus does not seemingly give them an answer, he does give an answer. And what is the answer that Jesus gives? To learn the answer, we need to go back to the baptism of Jesus, which is the baptism by John. What happened at that baptism by John? There were three events which occurred at his baptism. The first was the heavens were torn open. Isaiah chapter 64 verse 1 asks that God come down by tearing open the heavens to redeem his people. So when Matthew tells us the heavens were torn open, what he is saying is that God has heard Isaiah's plea and has come down in the form of Jesus. The second event is the Holy Spirit comes down on Jesus like a dove. The coming down of the Holy Spirit is God's approval of the event of the baptism. And the third, the voice from heaven speaks. And the voice says to the people, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. The voice points to Jesus, the voice of God as Jesus, as the messenger, as the Son of God, as the one who will proclaim God's message. In other words, Jesus is saying that he received his authority when he received his baptism. Because at his baptism, the voice from heaven, the voice from God, appointed him as his representative on earth through these words, this is my beloved Son, in him I am well pleased. Each one of us who professes to be either a disciple of Jesus or the follower of the truth also hears this voice. The same voice which was revealed to Jesus at his baptism is revealed to each one of us today, no matter what religion we might practice. That voice is saying to us, you are my beloved son, you are my beloved daughter, you are my beloved child, and I am pleased in you. Because the voice said it to Jesus, he lived out what the voice called him to do, a life of giving, a life of service, a life of selflessness. We hear the voice, and we too are called and invited to the same life in imitation of the truth, a life of selflessness, a life of service, a life of giving, a life of love. Will you perform 3 selfless actions today to show that you have heard God's voice?